Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. I would really appreciate you hitting the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Let's explore the hypothetical scenario of how an incumbent auto manufacturer can try to compete with Tesla. How can they create an EV that is scalable and profitable to a similar standard as Tesla? We measure EVs mainly by performance and range, so the auto manufacturer would need to produce EVs that rival Tesla's range and performance. They wouldn't need to match it, but to be within 10 to 20% of what Tesla offer these days should be sufficiently practical for most. It would also have to be of a similar price. Again, you might be able to get away with 10 to 20% higher price tag, perhaps because it's a Mercedes or some other brand, but what about less prestigious brands? How can they justify a higher price tag? Due to batteries being expensive, there is no feasible way for a low-cost ICE auto manufacturer to compete with Tesla in EVs. They will simply lose too much per sale of each vehicle. For this reason, I do not expect the likes of Toyota to make a mainstream attempt at electric vehicles. Their vehicles are already so cheap and fuel efficient, so I imagine them to stick with what they know. So the higher-end auto brands, however, due to the prestige of the brands, they're possibly able to make a profit. Let's say a decent battery pack costs $15,000. You obviously can't put one of those in a $25,000 Honda, but in a $60,000 Cadillac, it's a different story. Although, if it's electric, you can get away with charging even more than a regular Cadillac, like Porsche did with their Taycan. Okay, so some of the more upper market, higher end models might actually get away with making some profit on some of their cars. However, they are still competing against Tesla. It's likely that anyone spending that amount of money is going to do their research and will compare any electric car they're considering buying with Tesla. And Tesla will always win on specifications and price. I am sure there will be buyers for electric Cadillacs and a Mercedes S-Class or BMW 7 Series perhaps. However, the market is going to be relatively small. Due to such a small production size, it's likely not feasible to design and build cars entirely around the battery. They end up as more of an afterthought after the car's shell was already designed around an internal combustion engine. So as a result, none of these cars are likely to have the outstanding safety and handling of a Tesla, as they aren't taking advantage of this new design concept. It's also likely that if BMW started making electric cars, that they would be cannibalizing their own products rather than taking away from Tesla's customers. The EV market is small because there is so little supply still. It's not constrained by demand. Okay, so based on this, let's assume that a few manufacturers make some profitable EVs. Well, they still need to actually be sold. Car dealers order cars in bulk from the manufacturer and sell them to the end user at a profit. That isn't usually a huge profit, as the dealers make more money on the parts and servicing, as does the manufacturer. But electric cars don't require servicing and are far more reliable, thus requiring less parts. Therefore, there is less incentive for the dealers to sell electric. So the manufacturers would likely have to offer more margins to dealers, which would result in less profit or higher prices. Alternatively, the manufacturer could buy out the dealer network. This is literally what Cadillac is offering to do with their dealers, in order to sell more electric cars. Tesla already have their own dealer network and make the highest profits in the industry. So, they managed to convince customers to buy the electric car despite it being twice the price of a Tesla and has less range. But perhaps it's a BMW ME or something along those lines. And it's so cool and so much fun to drive, and because it's such a driver's car, consumers are actually okay with it not having the full self-driving capabilities. There's actually a lot of demand for this car, so BMW try to make more, except they can't. They aren't able to source enough batteries. They're simply too small a player to have any control over battery supply. They just have to take what they can get on the market, likely paying in the region of 4 times the price per kilowatt hour than it costs Tesla. But they have a niche, and it would be boring if it was just Teslas on the road, And these manufacturers will do everything they can to transition to electric as soon as possible. I mean, for the likes of Rolls-Royce and Bentley, it makes perfect sense. Quiet is considered luxury. For Ferrari and Lamborghini, you can produce so much torque with electric vehicles that the acceleration will be their fastest cars ever. I mention these brands in particular as the cost of a battery pack is minimal when compared to the sale price of these cars. But Ford know they have to do something about it too, or they're gone. So they look at what they have in their arsenal. Okay, what's our best brand? The Mustang. Okay, great, we'll use that. And what's the most popular car people want? Crossovers. Okay, great. So I've got a great idea. Let's make an electric Mustang crossover. And then the price still comes in far more expensive than an equal Tesla. And they likely still lose money on every sale they make. Also, how can they promote such a vehicle without admitting all their internal combustion cars aren't as good? It's not like they can advertise new Ford Mach-E, the future of autos, as it would imply all the other cars are the past of autos. It's not going to be easy, is it? Eventually, all the ICE cars will fade out. With bankruptcies and mergers of the legacy auto companies on the way, what will be left will be Tesla and a few niche players. At least for the foreseeable 5 to 10 years. Why only a few niche players, you ask? There are lots of EV competitors out there. Why would Tesla have the majority market share? Fair question. Well, it has nothing to do with how many competitors are out there, or how many EV models a legacy automaker may wish to make. No, it has to do with one thing. There is a major constraint when it comes to EVs, and that is the battery supply. To this date, Tesla still appear to be the only ones evidently taking action into increasing and controlling their own battery supply. And it is at the most rapid rate possible, as if there was an unlimited budget. They are already about 5 years ahead, possibly 10. In other words, if Tesla are making 90% of all the world's batteries, then they will control the EV market. Even though there are several other major EV battery manufacturers, such as LG Chem, Panasonic, and CATL, well, guess what? Tesla is the biggest purchaser of batteries from these suppliers too. They're so ahead in the game they control the battery supply and leave a few crumbs for any wannabe competitors. Remember, EV sales still only make up something like 2% of all auto sales. This number will increase 20 times in 5 years. 90% of batteries will be Tesla. That is, of course, if consumers even want to buy from any of these other manufacturers. Remember, they won't have the full self-driving and all the other features. And they won't be able to use the Tesla supercharger network. There is also the thought that when robotaxis are a thing, then less people will simply want to own cars anyway. It could be 1/10 the price just to use robotaxis everywhere. Alright everyone, well, I appreciate all your thoughts and look forward to reading your comments. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks very much.